Hello, and welcome to another stupid week. Today on the show, we're going to talk about how to form a government in 3 easy steps. No integrity required. But first, here's our top stories from this week. The chief of staff of the IDF sat down with Netanyahu to ask, "Bitch, you crazy?" I don't think he said that. He could have said it. There's no proof that he didn't say that. The IDF chief of staff sat down with Netanyahu this week to discuss the politicization of the Israeli Defense Forces. This past Monday, the Smotrich dairy bill passed, which sounds like an extra charge in your dry cleaning bill, and created a ministerial position inside the Defense Ministry for Bezalel Smotrich. Under the terms of the draft coalition, Smotrich can do things like appoint generals inside the Defense Ministry's civil administration organization of the West Bank. Smotrich originally wanted the Defense Ministry position, but ended up taking this position that was made up inside the Defense Ministry, kind of like if you can't afford to buy something on Amazon, so you get your Defense Ministry post at AliExpress. And great news, if you're a convicted criminal, you can be a minister now. Another great achievement for the incoming government is the dairy law. It has absolutely nothing to do with dairy, although I think lactose intolerance may be the only intolerance that this government doesn't have. This week, the Knesset passed a law allowing criminals to be ministers, as long as they didn't serve actual jail time, something everyone in Israel was obviously clamoring for. I, for one, am proud to live in a country where being a tax cheat and spending time in jail for corruption charges doesn't hold you back from the opportunities to commit more crimes in similar positions. Really, we should all just look at this as a heartwarming story of political manipulation for a shot at redemption. I'm sure Derry has learned his lesson, and that lesson is definitely not that there are no consequences. And now, in worst New Year's resolution news ever, Netanyahu kicked off it this week the same way that he has for the last couple of weeks, promising that his dumbass coalition partners are not going to do all the dumbass and racist things that they promised they're going to do. In this case, that dumbass was Orit Struk of the Religious Zionist Party, and the dumb stuff, a stipulation in the coalition agreement to amend discrimination laws to allow business owners to refuse to provide a service if it violates their religious beliefs. I guess this is a concern for people whose religious beliefs compel them to be Incoming Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu distanced himself from her position and promised that his coalition wouldn't be spending taxpayer time and dollars to do all the dumb things that nobody wants that they promised they're going to do anyway. Who knew how quickly we'd miss the good old days where the coalition was just promising no electricity on Shabbat? Netanyahu has continued to insist all week that under his leadership, the LGBTQ community would not have any of their rights rolled back. Boy, it would be much more convincing if he didn't have to repeat that every 5 days. Struk and the Religious Zionism Party are still intent on pursuing their discrimination law. Some people promise to read more, some people promise to go to the gym more, and it seems like Religious Zionism is going to ask, how can we be more racist this year? And now, the moment you're waiting for, how to form a government in 3 easy steps, no integrity required. Step 1, make sure you win the most votes. Or at least make sure you don't lose any votes, no matter how vile they are. Bibi was an expert at this, and that's why he's prime minister now. Because he looked at a guy like Avi Maoz, someone who looks like a Death Eater and thinks that women in the workforce is where society's all gone wrong, and said, I can work with this. Avi Maoz ended up in an alliance with the only 2 people in Knesset that he makes look good. A guy who looks like Cartman became a real boy, and someone who looks like his mother cuts his hair based off of pictures from a North Korean barber. Step 2. Give your coalition partners whatever they want. You kind of have to because they do have you over a barrel. If the last couple of weeks of coalition negotiations have taught you anything, it's that there is no price too big to pay when you're trying to form a government. Bibi's coalition partners definitely didn't make him look like a cheap piñata stuffed with ministerial positions. Sure, it would be great if your partners weren't demanding things, threatening you all the time, and setting fires that you constantly have to put out. But paraphrase Fleetwood Mac, if you can't be with the coalition that you love, love the one you're with. Anyway, a few news cycles, a few press conferences consistently promising that your government will not discriminate against people, and Mazel Tov, it's a government. Good luck to all of us. I think we've learned by now that this government is meant to serve one person and one person only. There's no other possible explanation for why you would want someone like Aryeh Deri, a convicted criminal, to be a minister or Itamar Ben-Gvir to be the national security minister, someone who draws a pistol and shrieks like a girl. I will never get tired of showing that video. So all I have to say is let's hope for the best, plan for the worst. I personally am really counting on Netanyahu's ability to soullessly betray his partners and stab them in the back to work for us this time around. Anyway, that's our show for now. Assuming that there's still a country left next week, when we'll discuss how to run a government in 3 easy steps or less. Maybe there are more steps. I'll check.